Some technical problem is there. Yeah. Now, in the last class, we had discussed the pending topic, especially that is publishing and the publishing and deploying the final APK file of our particular application, mobile application. For that, what are the 10 steps which is needed that we had followed and we have discussed that starting from how we can make an account of a Google Play Store and the details, how we have to enter a little bit details, and then $25 fees will be there for an registration of the particular account, which we have seen it will be of 1,800 in Indian rupees. Once you have paid that, then how the store list, everything we have discussed, and then how prominence our app is there, and how we should follow the regulations, norms of the Google, and all these particular things we have seen in a last class, and we have ended with in a unit 3. And coming in a unit 4, we have discussed already the how to send an SMS with the delivery status and all. That's a one important topic which we have discussed. And then how to send an email, that also we have discussed. And then the networking concepts, how the HTTP will be, means how you can interact with the different websites, and how a web accessing can be done in a two ways. That is the XML, you can take an XML code and you can access through that XML code the web service, means web data you can access, and you can link your app to that particular website. In the latest things we are using a JSON, that also I have told you that using a JSON, how you can link to that particular thing. And another one very important topic what we have discussed in the fourth unit is in services. So services is also a very much thing, the background thing which is running the services without a knowledge of an user or a person. For example, how to access the backward services of your phone and all. So that related things we have taken an example, and how to start the service and how to stop the service on particular issues, start and stop events, functions which we had discussed in that particular thing. And coming to the downloading section, there we have discussed that how in a binary data, that is a multimedia data, can be downloaded with the default functions, and how a text data can be downloaded. So here the left out last topic in a fourth unit is a precedence. Precedence. How precedence means how you are making your data to stay exist, either in an app or either in a phone or either in some particular database. It depends. It depends on the application what you are going to develop. For example, while a user is using some particular of app what we have developed, just I will use the internal storage of that particular phone as an ordinary file format. So no need of any database and all for me. Such an apps will use only some internal memory at that particular time. No, I want to store data permanently for a user. For example, assume that our app will be there. He will click on some particular pictures, and that pictures should be stored for edit purpose and all. Many apps which we will see today, that is photo editing apps and all, how it will be there. So you can take any photo from gallery, or any live photo you can take, and you can edit that particular photo accordingly, and again you can store back that in that particular app name folder. This is general things what we are using, especially in our particular apps, existing apps and all. So if you want to design such an apps and all, this type of accessing is very much important. So storing of that particular information, either you have to store in an internal storage or an external storage. Or I can say like this, no, I need a database. For example, assume that different tables like MySQL or an SQL databases you want, means you want to store the data in a rows and a columns based on a fields. So that type of usage is there in your particular app, assume, and you want to use that particular apps. So then you have to use in a database. The default database for our apps is SQLite. So how you are going to use that SQLite for your apps? That is, the SQLite will be there on user form only. Means it's a default one which will be there. Means some space you are going to use from the user, either internal memory or an external memory, and you are installing the SQLite there through your app installation itself. So it's a default database which you are going to use. But nothing will be there in a server side there. So if you want to maintain both in a server side as well as in a client side also, then server side it comes a concept of a cloud. Either a server should be there, cloud server should be there, and all your data should be transferred to that particular cloud. So this is a precedence which will be there whenever you are doing an app and all. This portion, whatever we are discussing today, the topic, it is always related to a data, where to keep my data in an app, or how in my particular app I'm placing the information. So that we are going to discuss. Now I'll share the PPT. Just a minute. Yeah. 1 minute. Yeah. Quickly, we'll recall some important things what we have did in a fourth unit. So later on, we'll jump into that persistence. See, there's a 10 hours class which we have did. Here the main thing in a fourth unit will be there on a messaging and a networking. So messaging, as I told you that we have discussed already, and we have written an activity also. So you are written in a test also how to send an SMS and how to get an delivery status using the SMS manager, the default package which will be there. In that we are going to use an send SMS and broadcasting status, especially for an delivery status if you want and all. How then intents also we have discussed that how from one activity to another activity, or you can move, you can invoke that linking activities using an intents. So for that, I have given an example also to you that if you click on one particular button, how you will move to the next particular activity. So after sending a message, how to get a feedback using an pending intents. That also I have discussed that get broadcast pending intent, whatever is there, using an broadcast functions, especially for a delivery, SMS delivery receiver, SMS sent receiver. So status, how you are going to get. We have registered that with a broadcast receivers, and how we have got things done. So sending a SMS using an intents, this is a final one which we have did, and we have typed the number, and definitely SMSs received we have seen. And sending an emails, this also we have discussed. We are using the POP3 and IMAP protocol with the default one, using that the format, so which you can send an emails. So this is one thing. There is an easy thing that which you can do if you go to the YouTube or in a Google and all, how to send an email through the Android app. If you click, a small code will be displayed to you. That is an easy code, not like SMS and all, which you can send. What are the things here you needed? Means same like a plain text box you may need, and the headings for text views you may need, and just a button. So send button will be there. So then automatically whatever you have typed in that plain text or an input text will be converted to the email message. Whatever identification email you have given, Google mail ID you have given, through that automatically the mails will go. So while registering the emails, which email you are going to register, that is very much important. Coming to the networking, so you learned about how your application can talk to the outside world through the use of SMS messaging and emails. In that always we know that we have data. Another way to communicate with the outside world is through the wireless network available on your Android device. So how you can make your networking connections using a Wi-Fi. Especially how you can communicate with your app, with the other things and all. Therefore, you will learn how to use the HTTP protocol to talk to web servers so that you can download the text and binary data. That I have told you that there will be two ways you are going to use the XML files, as the below point is telling you that the browse XML files to extract the relevant parts of the XML document of your web page. So using that, you can access that particular web page. So it's an older method of extracting any data from that particular web. Now we are using a JSON, that is Java's object notations, which is very lightweighted alternatively for XML. You can use to extract any data from web services. Consuming web services using HTTP protocol, how you are going to do that, you can see. So downloading the binary data, that is in a media, files, data, and all that also we have discussed in the last class. And using download image method and async task, especially synchronous task means no other tasks you can do. That means you can't receive any calls or you can't use any other functions in your phone once you started to download and all. Is the synchronous. Usually the Android 3.0 and later versions, you may know that once you start the downloading and all, even though you can do other works also in your phone, that is a async task which you can do. So download image method asynchronously is a method which we are using, async task. So using that particular task, you can download the images. So beside this, even you can download the plain text contents also through this particular method which I have shown you. Accessing a web services using an XML. These are the examples which is there and how the definition of that particular XML will be there and all. You can see in this particular screen here. And consuming the JSON services also, I have explained you how a JSON will be there, and sockets programming connecting to the server and a client. And you know already, you have learned in a computer networks that how the server sockets will be there and the client socket will be there, and how you are going to connect to that. So these are all about an activities on a web services. Creating your own services, as I have told you that any background services you want to create, I have asked this question in test also. So you have to start with the start service method and stop service. In between, if you want to destroy that particular service, you will go the on destroy service as well. So these are some coding examples which has been used to start the background services and to stop that particular services. Communication between services and activities. This also we have discussed putting some put extra thing which we have used in put extra which we have used for in some particular intent, how you are moving from one activity to another activity. If you want, you can see that activity video and you can kind on that particular thing. Now coming to data persistence. So here, as I discussed in the beginning, that what is our topic today. Persisting data is an important topic in an application development, as users typically expect to reuse data in the future. Yes, see, in a starting, whatever data in a starting it has been generated, maybe I want to use at last of the application closing. Otherwise, once whatever data is there, again I want to use the same data again and again. Best example I will tell you, the games. Sorry. I have heard, especially, I used to play the Rummy Circle, for example, just for example, I'm telling you. So coins is there around, assume that 1,53,000 coins is there with me. Today I will close my app and later on 1 week when I will open the app. So it's the same thing, 1,53 coins will only be there. It never starts from an app beginning. Once if I registered for that download and registered for that particular app, so the coin status will start from that particular, then it will identify me. So how it will identify me? So these things are very much important. So the identification can be done either in an online, like putting my own data in a cloud and all. Otherwise, once you have installed that particular game, so my details will be stored in a file within my phone only. So where my coins, details, everything will be stored there only. Then automatically it will go, means from that particular point, it will start. So yeah, either ways depends on a application how you are going to develop. For Android, there are primarily three basic ways of persisting the data. The light weight mechanism known as a shared preferences to save a small chunks of data. So lightweight mechanism, shared preferences will be there. This is a one particular method I will tell you. So traditional file systems will be there. Yeah, you know our own file systems will be there in our phone and all. So traditional file systems, as a file, you can store that in your phone. Otherwise, the relational database management system, your DBMS concept, whether you want to store a data in rows and column and in a tables method, so it will support the SQLite database, which will be there already in Android apps.
Excuse me, sir.
Coming,
Sir, slides change ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಇಲ್ಲ
ಇವಾಗ
ಸರ್, ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಒಂದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ.
ಇವಾಗ
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಹಲೋ,
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್? ಈಗ
ಈಗ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಇವಾಗ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಹಾ ಸರ್, ಆಗ್ತದೆ.
ಓಕೆ, ಅವಾಗಿಂದ ಆಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಹೇಳೋದಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ
ಸರ್. ಅದು ಸಮ್ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ಬೇರೆ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಲೆಕ್ಚರರ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಸೇಮ್ ಸಮ್ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಆತರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
Okay, back here I'll repeat today's topic, that is persistence of the particular data. In your application development, you will expect the reuse of data, so you will follow the three basic ways, that is shared preferences, traditional file systems, and SQLite. Shared preferences is like that, just for a moment I need a small chunks of data and I will use from other phone applications or phone functions like that. Sorry, like that. Or traditional file systems, whatever a file system is there in my particular phone, I'm going to use that and I will store according to that particular files. Means I'll create one folder, so it means whatever files it will be supported by particular phone, I'll store in that particular method. Another one is, though I want a database management system, that is I want to store a data in a rows and a columns and some queries and all I have to execute. Then you should go for an SQLite, which is on a default one, and an Android phones. Saving and loading user preferences, how you can do the shared preferences. Android provides the shared preferences object to help you save a small application data. For example, your application may have an option that enables users to specify the font size of the text displayed in your application. Using the shared preferences object, however, you save the data you want through the use of the name value pairs or specific a name for the data you want to save, and then both it and its value will be saved automatically to an XML file. So that means the shared preferences, how it will work, so there will be an XML background one file will be there. There, for example, I will tell the button name or a text view name and all is sorry is so and so. Usually we have did in activities also, that is I will tell a button name as an some example send. So I want to fix the size, font size of that, and I want to view the background size and all, I want to change and all. So these are the shared preferences where through that particular text view object you can raise, and you can using an attributes of that particular class, you can fix the values in an XML file. That is whatever changes you will do, it will reflect in a layout XML file, which we have seen. So that is a one way of information storing about an components, some descriptions if you want to do, small things if you want to do that things, especially you can do accessing the preferences using an activity. Here you can see here, load the preference kit, whatever is there, display the preference values, modify the preference. When whatever text is there, text you want to change the font of that particular text and all. So font size you have to enter and click on change, automatically font size will change. So if you want to do these type of apps, especially for example, assume in a plain text I will enter some particular data. At that particular use time means dynamically I want to change, I want to fix the text data, whatever I have typed, font size and all. So I will keep one button, font size. So for click on a font size, then automatically another plain text will be there. It will ask a value to you. For example, I will tell 45 dB, enter. So automatically the plain one text will change. Like that it may be assumed. So if you want to do these type of apps and sorry, if you want to do these type of apps and all, so you are going to use an accessing preferences. So this is a thing, and coming to the next thing, you can see even ringtones, default ringtone, silent if you want to make your phone and all. These are the whichever characteristics which is there already in a phone or already in the components and all. If you want to fix, so that you're using in a method, preference method or a preference values, you can change that particular thing. Coming to the data to files, this is another one. Persisting data to files means I want to store, for example, assume my app will be like that, as I told you that I will click one particular photo and just I will tell submit. Automatically, the photo should store in one particular folder of my phone. For example, assume ABC app, ABC folder will be there. So it will store in that. And later on, that photo can be used for editing purpose, something like that. Assume your app is a photo editor app or a mixing app, something like that, which you are going to do. For this, you need to store data in a form of files. The shared preferences object enables you to store data that is best stored as a name, value, page, only that. For example, user ID, birthday, gender, driver license number, and so on. Saving into the internal storage. This is another one. The first way to save the files in your Android application is to write to the device internal storage. This is a default one which anybody can use, and you can write into that particular thing. So the other way is saving to the external storage, that is your SD card. using that for the in that also you can store. Sometimes it could be useful to save them to external storage such as an SD card because of its later capacity as well as the capability to share the files easily through other users by removing the SD card and passing it to the somebody else. So if you store in a secondary memory, almost all it is a better thing where you can save even your internal memory. But now SD cards, I think we are not almost all. No one is using. Why? Because inbuilt memories, it will be there around 128 GB like that. Card ಇವಾಗ ಯಾರು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. So no one will use cards now for a sake. I think so. So internal storage will be a good option, whatever you are going to use for your apps using a static resources. What is this? Besides creating and using files dynamically during runtime, it is also possible to add a files to your package during design time so that you can use it during runtime. Yes, I will predefine that automatically folder whenever my app has been installed. The automatically folder should create on my app, and whatever user is doing a work with that particular thing, the data and all in a file format, it should store in that particular folder. And for a user, if he wants to see that particular data and all, if he goes to that particular folder and he opens that, he can easily see that particular either photo editings, whatever I told like that, the output of your particular. This is a staticness. That is, as a designer, I am already know that I need some space. Why? Because my app nature is like that. I need a space to store this particular files or activity what user is going to do. So for that, I will predefine it. For example, you may want to bundle some help files with your package so that you can display some help messages when users need them. Yeah, this is another one case. Yeah, I want to, in my app, I'm having a help section also, assume for a sake. So what I will do, then automatically I will make one folder of my particular app and there I will store the help files, everything. So according to the need of a user, where he is, in which level he is, so automatically when he needs particular help, he clicks on that, then that particular information I will share to the user. So there's another one better example which you can take. In this case, you can add the files to your packages as raw folders which you can create while installing that particular thing. See there how they are creating. To make use of the file encode, use the get resource method. Using a get resource method in your activity class, you can get the resources from the files, means that phone folder files, and you can access the particular folder and a particular file. I think you can see the slides. If any interference is there, definitely you can ask me. Creating and using databases. This is a very, very important concept. Why I'm going to tell this? When you are creating an app with the tables, that means when that situation will come, I will tell you. When you will go for a database and all. Assume when I want to store my data into different tables, I want to link that particular tables one to one, and I want to extract the data from a multiple tables with the queries and all. So then you need a databases. So for that, you must go for a relational database management, that where you can relate one table with another particular table, and the entire database you can call with that. For example, I will tell you user registration you will do. For example, in agricultural, sorry, if an agricultural app, for example, farmer registration you are going to do. After doing a farmer registration, assume his phone will be in a primary key ID, you will make fix that. And again, for example, I will tell you, farmer wants to load his crop or plant photo for an pest control. So this table is different. Now this particular table is different. Why this table is different? Here we will take again former ID. It will become a foreign key, and so whatever the photo is uploading, that also will make it as an field, and what you want the message. So that will become another field. So assume like that. So how to interlink these two things? So here we are going to use the concept of particularly this database. So in Android, which one you are going to use? You are going to use a SQLite database system. It's a simple database. So that means it's not like your big databases like MySQL, Mango, or Oracle like that. Why? Because entire your phone memory will be eaten up with if you go with a big databases and all. SQLite, it's a small databases which will comes with your apps. So where you can store a small amount of data there and you can interact with that. Android uses the SQLite database system. The database that you create for an application is only accessible to itself. Other applications will not be able to access it. For Android, the SQLite database that you create programmatically in an application is always stored in where you can see the data and package name and database folders. So in this particular path only, it will be stored. So creating the database adapter, so helper class means how, what is the adapter here? Very simple example I will tell you. What's the adapter? Why will you go for an adapter? In general sense, I will tell you, if I want to connect two components, if you want to connect any two particular things, we'll go for an adapters. General way, I will tell you. My USB cable, I want to connect to any AC, I need an adapter. Just so how my adapter will help me to convert so the AC electrical signal to an electronics signal. So there's the best thing, the best example. So I want to connect whatever my functions or information is there in my particular app. Database will be like this. This side has one particular individual component, and this is my particular app here, which is something is going on in my app. The information, whatever is there, I want to store in this particular database. So in between, to connect my app and this particular database, I need an adapter. So a good practice for dealing with the databases is to create an helper class to encapsulate all the complexities of accessing the data so that it is transparent to calling the code. Create a helper class called DB adapter that creates, opens, closes, and uses an SQLite databases. That means if you want to create, if you want to open, or if you want to close the SQLite, if you want to create a tables in that, if you want to store, you need an adapter. So database name, usually my DB with the table will be there as a contacts, that is ID, name, email, something, whatever you want to fields. You can store in that particular format. Notice that Android uses the cursor class as a return value for queries. Think of the cursor as a pointer to the result set from a database query. Using a cursor enables the Android to more efficiently manage your rows and columns as needed. You use a content values objects to store name value pairs, especially how a content cursor you are going to use and the contents you are going to use. I'll create one particular field and from whatever from database the information is coming in a field wise or a row wise, column wise, I'm going to store that in each particular field, and then I'm going to display to the user according to the components or according to the layout how I have fixed it. So this and that I will do using an activity management. Don't worry about this. How to connect with the SQLite and how you can do one thing and all. I will show you one activity for this particular purpose, then you can see practically there how you can create a table and how you can dump data into that and how you can retrieve that. Using a database programmatically, how you will learn how to perform the regular CRUD, that the CRUD method, that is create, read, update, and delete operations commonly associated with the databases. Upgrading the databases also you can do using an upgrading versions. Pre-creating the database. In real life applications, sometimes it would be more efficient to pre-create a database at a design time rather than a runtime, 100%. Always the pre-created databases is very powerful than this particular thing. Why I tell you? I know, see, my farmer details I know before while designing an app itself. So this is a pre-created database. Why can't I create a pre of that particular thing? On moment, if I create a database, some problems will be. To pre-create an SQLite database, you can use many of the free tools available. One such tool is a SQLite database browser, that is SQLite browser. If you go to this particular link, definitely you can use there and you can create a databases there. Bundling in a database, all database what you have created and you have to bundle to one particular application that you can do here. So recall saving simple user database, that is using a shared preferences that I have told you how you can do and all. Get the shared preferences methods, different methods. Saving of a files, file output stream reader classes we are using. Reading from a files, file input stream reader classes we'll use. Saving the files to the external storage, get external storage directory and we'll access the file. Accessing the files in the rest and raw methods, that is open. The raw resources, get resources, that is from particular folder you want. So that particular time, that also we have discussed. And creating a database helper class, extended SQLite open helper class. So using that also you can do. Content providers. What is this actually to say? The content providers. Note, while using a database approach in the recommended way to save a structured and complex data, sharing data is a challenge because the database is accessible to only the package that created it. So no others can use that. So how you can provide a content to the users? In Android, using a content provider is a recommended way to share the data across packages. Think of content provider as a data store. That means accessing your database to the DB adapter, you will take that and you will make one content provider there. And how this, you will transfer the data from there to that particular content provider. From that content provider, you will again take out the data and you will represent to the users. Just best example, if you want, I will tell you one large data will be there. One dot pathway serve modality will take to a small box that rice, and again you are going to serve to the user. Why you should do that? So you will tell, sir, entire that vessel I can't lift and I can't put for each one person there with a small spoon or small quantity like that. So I need a small vessel. That's a content provider. Sorry. This is the best example you can take. Now you can see how packages can access the data stored in it using a consistent programming interface. A content provider behaves very much like a database. It's like, why? Because, for example, whatever data you are retrieving from a database, here I will tell, sorry, ID, email, for example, ID, email, and then phone number. Here I will take ID, I will call as, for example, user ID, and I will tell so ID name, something like that. So I will extract data, I will fix this values in this particular attribute names, then the data will come and sit in a container. Then automatically I will give that to the users, end users. So, however, unlike a database, a content provider can use a different ways to store its data. The data can be stored in database in files or even over a network. There is no rule like that for a container to what way. Usually we are going to use a files. My experience when I did activity and all, usually it will use a files type, temporary files type. When you that will work only in a runtime, means content providers and all. Your original data will be there in a database only. But this is at that particular runtime of your particular app, so it will retrieve data from a database representation how you should do. For that purpose, we are going to use a content providers. Android ships with many useful content providers, including the following: browser, call log, contacts, even your contacts, if it is, that's also a content provider, media store, settings, so all these things. So in which way you want to represent your data, you can represent according to that. You can make your containers. So the query content provider, if you specify the query string in the form of a URL with an optional specifier for a particular row, the format of the query URL is as follows. So in this way, you can represent the query with the tags. The various parts of URL are as follows. So using this, you can extract the contents. So you can see this particular slide. And further, you can get more details on this when you go to this particular links. So in this way, so you need a contacts you can get in your app. So how a content things and all you are going to read. So the predefined query string constraints and all, it will work with the bookmarks, how you are did and all. So projections is there, filtering and sorting, creating your own content providers. So we'll discuss in the coming classes. I think almost all creating your own content providers, it will end the topic. I think I will clear it. Creating your own content provider in Android is relatively simple. All you need to do is extend the abstract content provider class. Means whatever abstract provider class is there, you have to extend that. You override that using your own methods. That is, for example, I want a different fields here. The contacts I want to represent in different way. For how I want to represent in contacts in a different way. For example, I will tell you like this: I want to put a name, nickname, and then phone number, or phone number, nickname, and then a name. So I want to add up these things. So my container should be like that. So you can create it, not a problem. So you can create your own phone book. Sorry, as a container, and you can get a phone contact details from the database, and you can rearrange it in a container. You will learn how to create a simple content provider that stores a list of books. I will do practically and I will show you until this content provider. The various methods to override in this class content provider are as follows: get type, on create, what query you are going to put, and insert, delete, and update. So whatever is there, you can all your SQL functionalities you can put via your container, and you can get the things done. How to use the content provider and all, I will tell you in activity class, which we are going to do in next week, like that. So now this ends your on fourth unit with an incompleted portion, which is I re-conclude that, which is persistence of data. So this is very much important topic where almost all one main question will be there on this particular. So any doubts is there on today's class, you can ask me now. The session is open for discussion. Any doubts? Any doubts? ಮಾತಾಡ್ರೋ.
No, sir.
No. Content persisting ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ ಎಲ್ಲಾರ್ಗು? ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಅಂತ? ಆಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಒದ್ಲಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಹೇಳಿದೀನಿ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಶೋ ಯು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಹೌ ಟು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಎ SQL-like database. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಟು ಲಿಂಕ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟು ದ ಕಂಟೈನರ್. ಒಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕದಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಆಪ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಒಂದು 4-5 ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು. ಅವಾಗ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ.
Excuse me, sir.
ಕಿಶನ್.
For project, sir, like no need of some storage database ಏನು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ತಾನೆ ಸರ್? ಕಂಪಲ್ಸರಿ
ಅದು ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್. ಹೌದು, ಯಾರು ಸಬ್ಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆ? ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದಿದ್ದು ನೀವು?
GCR ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್ ಅಸೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್.
ಮಾಡಿದೀರಾ?
ಅಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್, ನಾವು ಸಬ್ಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ
ಸರ್.
ಹಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಓಕೆ, ಸರಿ, ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ವಿಟೇಷನ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾರ್ಗು. ನೀವು ಸಬ್ಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಸರಿನಾ? ಇವತ್ತೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು, ಒಂದು ಗುರುವಾರ ಶುಕ್ರವಾರದೊಳಗಡೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ.
ಓಕೆ
ಸರಿ, ಓಕೆನಾ?
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದ್ ಸಣ್ಣ ಆಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅನುಕೂಲ. ನಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಏನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾ, ನಾಳೆ ದಿನ ನಿಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನಾಳೆ ದಿನ ನೀವು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಐ ಟೆಲ್ ಯು, 3rd SEM ಅಲ್ಲಿ IoT ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. IoT ಕಾಂಬಿನೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್, ಕ್ಲೌಡ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು, ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ಲರ್ನ್, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಸೊ. ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಅದು ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇನ್ 3rd SEM ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್. ಪೈಥಾನ್ ವಿತ್ ಮೆಷಿನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ, ವಿತ್ ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ ಇದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ IoT ವಿತ್ ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಈಗಿರೋ ಕೆರಿಯರ್ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಾನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಕೀಪ್ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಹೇಳ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋದೇ IoT, ಮಿಷನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್, and then this mobile apps, how you're going to link that project as a mobile usage. So this is very much important. ಸೊ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಫೋಟೋ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೇನೆ ನೋಡಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ BMSC ಹುಡುಗರು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಅಪ್ ತರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ವಿತ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಎ ಕಾಲೇಜ್. ಒಂದು ಮಿಷಿನ್, ಏನಪ್ಪ ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಅದೇ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಇರತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಚಿಪ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ ಅದು ಇದು ಕೊಡೋದು. ಹೌ ಮೆನಿ ಆಫ್ ಯು ನೋ ದಿಸ್? ಏನ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್? ಬೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್. ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್.
ವೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್.
ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್. ಓಕೆ. ಅಂತ ಆ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹೇಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ಬಟ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಪುಟಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಕಾಯಿನ್. ಅವ್ರೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಆಪ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಆಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಬಾರ್ಕೋಡ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಆ ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಹತ್ರ. ಆಪ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಆ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಆಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅವರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನನ್ಗೊಂದು ಬಿಸ್ಕೆಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್, ಒಂದು ಚಿಪ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ ಬೇಕು, ಅವೆರಡು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ಆಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಹುಡುಗ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಬಟನ್ ಇರೋದು ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಎನೇಬಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಬಟನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ಇದು ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ವೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮಿಷಿನ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಬಿಸ್ಕೆಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್, ಚಿಪ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅದನ್ನ ಪುಷ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅದ್ ಬಂದು ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ನಾಚ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಪಿಕ್ ಅಪ್ ದಟ್. See how they are linking a hardware device with this particular mobile app. ಮೊದಲಾದ್ರೆ ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಕೊಡೋದು, ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಹಾಕೋದು, ಕಾಯಿನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಿಗ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಮೇಜರ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇನೆ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಆಪಲ್ ಒಂದು ಬಟನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ರಾಸ್ಪೆರಿ ಪೈ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಡಿನೋ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಇದಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಟು ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು DC ಮೋಟರ್ ರಿಂಗ್ ತರ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಿಂಗ್ ರಿಂಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ. ಸೊ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಐಟಮ್ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ. ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಬಂದಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ 2 IR ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾರೆಡ್ ಲೇಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಇದಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಏನೋ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾರೆಡ್ ಸೆನ್ಸಾರ್ಸ್. ಅದು ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ಬಿದ್ದಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಕಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಲೈಟ್ ಕಟ್ ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಐಟಮ್ ಬಿದ್ದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ನಾಚ್ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಐಟಮ್ ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ 2 IR ಸೆನ್ಸಾರ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಾಚ್. So in this way they have data. I'll show you the video of that. I am trying to collect that. ಸೊ ಈ ಟೈಪ್ ನೀವು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 3rd ಸೆಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 4th ಸೆಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಓಕೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್. ವೈ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಸೊ. ಆಮ್ ಐ ರೈಟ್? ಹೌದಾ? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಗಣೇಶ್ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So you can read for your test. Don't worry about that. All the best for your lab test. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop recording.